We have been discussing emotional wellness all this month in my empowerment community. And that includes being able to manage your emotions in stressful situations, feeling emotionally supported in your daily life by your friends and by your family, finding activities that create a sense of calm and inner peace, and bouncing back quickly after emotional setbacks. I'm going to talk more about this in this episode. I'm Larry Cornett, and this is Invincible Life. If you go to newsletter.invinciblelife.me, this is issue 163, talking about emotional wellness. So there are going to be times definitely that you're going to suffer setbacks. It's normal. I was talking with somebody about this recently. I think they had hoped that there would be times in life when everything is going right. Because there's definitely times in life when everything seems to be going wrong. I think we've all experienced that. It's like one setback after another. You're having problems at work, problems in your personal life, problems with health, problems with friends or family, problems with your fitness, your emotional wellness, all that stuff, right? And there can be times when everything just seems to be going wrong. I've had those moments. That whole when it rains, it pours expression is true. It definitely seems like things pile on. And then there's also times where it's kind of balanced, where certainly things aren't perfect, but a lot's going right. And we wonder, we hope, and I know as a younger person I expected, there would be times in life that if I did everything right, and I was managing everything correctly and balancing everything correctly, that everything would be great. Everything would be going well. And I don't think life is ever like that. You don't control enough of it. It is entirely too chaotic. The universe is full of chaos. There are millions and millions of other people around you. You can't control every aspect of your environment, the people around you, life, the universe. Good luck with that. So I think it's impossible. I don't think there's ever a time when everything is just going perfectly. It's all peachy keen. So I think you have to learn to manage your emotional wellness despite that. In spite of the fact that nothing is ever going to be 100% perfect, and you just have to accept that. I think that's the first step, right? It's like don't expect everything to be perfect, because emotional wellness isn't about just avoiding stress and avoiding disappointment, never feeling heartbreak. It's all going to happen. It's all going to happen. It's really about how well you can manage that, how quickly you can bounce back. If you've acquired the skills that you need and the practice with it, that you can return to a sense of balance. And it is balance. It's never going to be all sunshine and puppies. And I think it helps a lot with your personal life. It's going to help with your career. It's definitely going to help with relationships with loved ones and friends, your health. I can tell you now in my late 50s, there is never going to be a day I wake up and I'm like, I feel amazing. I feel like I'm 18 again. No. Something's always going wrong. Something always hurts. It's the balance. You just have to learn to live with that and balance and make peace with it. And it's definitely going to happen at work. It's going to happen in your personal life. So it's like, what can you do to bounce back from that? So I wanted to share a few ideas, some ways that you can take care of your emotional wellness and set yourself up to bounce back quickly. Because again, it's not about avoiding those negative things. You cannot live life and interact in this world and avoid those things. They're going to happen. You just have to accept that. So I think that's the first step, is understanding that it's unreasonable to expect bliss. And that's why you beat yourself up. You're like, why am I not feeling 100% about everything in my life right now? Oh no, it doesn't happen. No one experiences that. No one does. You may think they do because you just see them from the outside. And some people are really good at hiding it. They hide their pain. They hide their struggle. They don't bleed it out online. They don't share stuff on Facebook or Twitter or wherever it is that you like to share these things. So you don't know. You think, wow, their life is perfect. Where you're only seeing the perfection. They're not going to share the times that they cried themselves to sleep or the breakup they went through or something that's going on with their health. Not everybody shares everything. So that's the first thing. Realize it's impossible. And now you have a different baseline. So I think that's an important step. What is your baseline? Where should you expect to kind of be? And sometimes you'll go above it. It's going to be, wow, things are really going pretty well. And sometimes you'll dip below it. And you're going to feel like everything's going wrong. But think about where your baseline is. And establish that before you start having all these setbacks or other issues that happen. I think you're going to recover from negative things more quickly when you're doing your best to manage a pretty strong foundation of wellness. And you just can't set aside a lot of this stuff. We can get away with a lot of it when we're younger, when we're really young, because a lot of the stress and chaos of life has been held at bay. If you had a decent childhood and good parenting, they kept a lot of that from you. You were not working 9 to 5 to pay the bills when you were 5 years old. So I know some people were. I'm not going to get into that. But you weren't worrying about money. You weren't worrying about food. Your parents were providing. You had very few worries. And so your stress ability was a lot higher. You could put up with a lot of stuff that might happen at school, bad grades or a tough test, because you weren't worrying about finances and you weren't worried about eating or getting clothing. Someone else was taking care of that for you. As you get older, you don't have that. And you have to start intentionally building in a good foundation and a cushion that gives you that resilience. And that includes a lot of stuff. One that we abuse constantly is sleep. A lot of us are running on empty. We're thinking we can push ourselves as hard as we did when we were in our teens and 20s, maybe even our 30s. You need sleep. You need a decent amount of healthy sleep, and I've talked a lot about that before. So sleep is something that can give you a cushion. When you have sleep deprivation, very little resilience. People break down. They mentally and emotionally break down. It's a torture method to go without sleep. Why would you do it to yourself? So focus on getting really good sleep and being serious about that. That will already increase the power of your foundation. Exercise, I talk about this all the time. And again, most of us put it off. I did. I shouldn't have. I didn't really get serious about exercise until I was in my 40s. Because as a young person, I was pretty healthy, pretty fit. I was lucky enough for a long time in my life that I could eat anything on the planet and not gain any weight. Well, that changed in my 40s. And now I'm in my late 50s. But I've been exercising pretty much every day. I do it at least 4 days a week, sometimes 5 or 6, since around 2009. So it's been a long time, 16 plus years. That really helps. That really helps. Exercise makes my body feel better. Everything functions better. I sleep better. I have a lot of physical resilience because of my exercise, and I try to eat well too. I don't get sick very often. I hardly ever get sick, and that's been true for decades. I rarely get sick, and I attribute that to getting sleep and exercise and eating well. I really do. I try to minimize my alcohol intake. I'm not a teetotaler. I do enjoy a drink every now and then. I'll have 1 or 2 a week. Try to make it a celebratory thing. Like, hey, we're going to go out. We're going to hike all day. on a Saturday, and then we're going to go have a drink and a nice dinner. I don't make it a regular habit. I used to. That's a bad thing. I used to have a glass or two of wine every night, and that was a mistake. So that helps too. I talk about time in nature, and it's been proven time and again how good green exercise is for you, and time around forest, getting to the trees, being near water. Water is hugely restorative. So I try to go out every single week. I make a day of it. Every Wednesday I talk about this. I go for a hike. My wife and I, we hike at least 2 hours, very often 4 to 5, and sometimes as much as 8 to 9 hours. It's like those hikes are kind of crazy. I think we did a 12-mile hike in the mountains. That took a long time, but we try not to go quite that far. That's pretty brutal. But we do get out every week. We try when we can to go for a walk every night, get outside and do that. We try to go skiing in the winter every week. It's very restorative. It really helps your emotional baseline become stronger. Your foundation becomes stronger. Maintaining good relationships, having friendship is really important. There's been research. Men are pretty poor at this as they get older. There's an epidemic of loneliness, especially in the U.S., and I think we need those friendships. We need relationships. It can be family. It can be people that are close to you. And that could be in person, which is great. If you have to do it online, by all means. I have friends that I have made many, many years ago, and we talk every week online. I've never met them in person, but they're very supportive. They're good, kind people. It's been really helpful. So relationships really matter. Creating routines. It isn't just for those of us who may be somewhat on the spectrum or have ADHD or a little obsessive compulsive. It's pretty good for a lot of people, especially your morning routine and your night routine. So in the middle, you may not have a lot of control. If you have a boss and a job, they kind of run the show a lot during the middle of the day. I remember that. It's one of the reasons I became a solopreneur. I got tired of that. But I do talk about the power of my morning routine. I get up. I try not to look at my phone or check the news and get stressed out right away. I make my coffee. And so I'll have a cup of coffee and I'll journal in a paper notebook. And I've created journaling notebooks for this purpose. If you go to newsletter.invinciblelife.me, in my bio, I link those. I did that on purpose because I wasn't happy with all the journals I had tested for years and years and years. So I finally made my own. But yeah, I have a slow start to the morning. I enjoy coffee. I journal. I don't like being rushed in the morning. I really don't like it. So that helps keep my stress low, and it helps me give a good foundation to being able to bounce back from stressful stuff later that happens in the day. And then in the evening, kind of reflecting back on the day. So having a shutdown ritual and finding ways to calm yourself and disconnect from work, disconnect from the stress. Don't scroll social media. Don't read the news. That's not a good way to fall asleep. And I recently talked about things you could do to fall asleep. So whatever it is that you need and whatever you need to do to find that balance, that baseline, do it and stick to it and treat it as medication. Think of it as something that you need to build a really good foundation so that you can recover more quickly when things try to throw you off. It's because when you're not solid and you have a really shaky foundation, it's going to be a lot easier for you to be thrown off your game and feel bad. So that's one. The other thing is, and this is good for people like myself, is trying not to suppress the emotions, trying to process them. So it's hard to get through this if you suppress the emotion. It's also hard to get through this if you let the emotion overwhelm you and you don't control it. So you try to process it. You try to identify what's going on. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling angry? Why am I disappointed? Why am I frustrated? Look at it, talk through it. You could work through this with someone you trust, a loved one or a friend or a coach. And I think it helps to write stuff down. So capture what's going on, what happened, what you're going to do about it. because that helps you be a little more rational about it. It really does help to write things down, think through what you're going to do as a remedy for it, how you're going to avoid it in the future, how to manage these issues and prioritize stuff that you might be dealing with. It's not good to kind of just stick with it and try to pretend it's not happening or to suppress it. That doesn't really help very much. And it also doesn't help to just let the emotion completely overtake you. So you spend the whole day feeling depressed or anxious or upset or angry, and a lot of people do. They walk around with a ton of anger, and they never think about, why am I feeling this way and how do I deal with this? Instead, they just let it overtake them. And it's hard to bounce back from a setback, like your car breaks down the freeway or you get a flat tire, if you're just living in that angry mode. So that's not good. So you want to process it, deal with it, and figure out how to solve the problem rationally. The other thing you can do is try to separate that event, that setback that happened, from kind of the core of who you are, your identity, and what normally happens. So I think sometimes people get stuck when they're like, oh, I failed at this. I'm a failure. I always fail. I must suck. I must be really bad at this. Usually that's not the case, right? I think I'm just as guilty. I'm pretty rough on myself, but I have to learn to separate that. That, yeah, something happened. It was a setback. It doesn't define me. It doesn't mean that I'm always a failure. I'm always going to fail. So just thinking about it and trying to be more rational and say, yeah, this happened, but it doesn't define who I am. This is not who I am. I am not a failure. I may have failed at this thing. It's a challenge. Maybe you're facing a challenge. You're like, okay, but you look back on your life, and this is why I have people write what I call the story of you. Look back on all the things that you've accomplished in your life and realize, I've overcome harder things than this. I have overcome bigger challenges than this. This is not going to be the end of me. I'll get through it, And then remembering, just no matter who you are, your identity, your personality, your skills, your knowledge, your experience, your talents, all of that is still the same no matter what happened with the setback. You will come out the other side of it and still be you. And you will move on. And you may even completely forget this thing. I know that things feel really big in the moment. Setbacks feel enormous, like losing your job, getting laid off. I've been there. I've been laid off. I coach people all the time who get laid off and fired. And it's raw. It's raw in the moment that it happens. Same thing with like a big breakup or something that's gone wrong. And in the moment, it feels larger than life, and it feels like just the end of everything, and you're never going to feel good again. You're never going to recover. But as time goes by, it feels a little less intense. It doesn't feel quite as bad. And before you know it, you're on the other side of it, and you have recovered. So you just have to remember who you are and that you've gotten through these kind of things before. And don't attach your identity, your sense of worth, to a momentary setback. You're still you. You're still a wonderful person. You're still going to achieve great things. Just get through this thing. And that helps when you have that strong foundation. I think also thinking back on other times that you've overcome setbacks, what happened, thinking about this current setback, and then reframing it and saying, well, how am I feeling about this? What am I thinking it means? Why do I think it happened? Is all of that serving me well? Is that really going to help me move forward? There is an opportunity to take a setback and rewrite it. I can tell you there are times that I didn't get something I wanted, and then months or years later, seeing that was probably the best thing that could have happened. In the moment, it felt terrible. It's like, oh no, I didn't get this job or this thing or whatever didn't happen. Felt horrible in the moment. Felt like the end of things, right? And then months later, years later, I looked back and said, wow, it's pretty good thing I didn't get that. I would not have been happy if I ended up in that situation or with that job or with that person or whatever it might be, right? It's funny how that happened. That can happen so many times. So think about it and realize that sometimes that setback can be reinterpreted. You could reframe it and say, it feels like this, but what if it actually means this? What if closing that door means that another door could be opened later? Or what if losing this means I'm going to push myself harder to achieve what I really want? So I've had that happen, right? Where it's like, oh no, I lost this job and I didn't get this job I wanted. And it's like, I've been holding off on building a business. What if I just do it now? Instead of waiting 20 years, what if I just sit down, create a plan, look at the timeline and roadmap and say, I'm going to give myself a chance to make this succeed. Maybe losing this was a gift. Now I can actually pursue what I've always wanted to do, and I just needed a push, right? So that's another way to look at things. Reframing is powerful. Reframing is powerful. You may be familiar with a very common one that I've used with people that are afraid of public speaking, where there's a fear and there's butterflies. And if you interpret that as fear and nervousness and anxiety, it feels pretty bad. But if you reframe that and say, of course I have butterflies, I'm excited. This is a wonderful opportunity. I can't wait to get on stage. Why wouldn't I be excited about this? This is a feeling of adrenaline, not fear. I'm excited. I'm not anxious. It changes everything because the feeling in your body is very similar. And I'm sure you've experienced this. Something can be very exciting and something can make you very afraid, and the feeling is the same. Your heart's racing, the adrenaline's pumping, and it really depends on how you interpret that. There's been psychological research done on this. Reframe something as excitement instead of fear, and all of a sudden it's a good thing. So it's one way to think of it. Another thing that can really help to bounce back quickly is to reconnect with what helps you. They describe this as self-soothing. There are ways to do this that I think are not healthy. We all fall into this trap. We have comfort foods, junk food. People turn to alcohol and drugs. They endlessly scroll social media and doom scrolling. That doesn't make you feel better. And if anything, it exacerbates the problem. You feel worse later. So those things that I talked about that can help you with the foundation can also be a way to recover from a setback. And I use these as tools. I deliberately know things that make me feel better, that I learned finally, that are pretty healthy. Exercise, I use weightlifting as my exercise primarily, going out into nature and hiking, creating art, listening to music, things like that. So when I find myself starting to spiral down, starting to feel negative, the initial reaction used to be, and still it kicks in, it's like, I need to really drill down on this, and I got to solve this problem now, and I'm going to just obsess about it. And usually I'm not doing my best work then, and I'm not thinking clearly, and I'm not being rational. I need to take a step back and get away, clear my mind, and help myself recenter and become a better thinker with a better emotional base to come back from. So I can feel it. I can feel when tension's building. I'm an introvert, so if I have too many meetings in a row or too much time with people outside in the real world, I need to recover. And so I can feel it. I have too many meetings in a row, and I take a break and I go lift weights. And let me tell you, lifting heavy weights is a great way to shut down your mind a little bit because you just are in survival mode. Your body is like, I'm not going to be thinking about taxes or meetings or something that happened in an email or on social media. I just need to lift this weight. that heavy physical movement shuts down that higher level cognitive brain and turns on your monkey brain. And it helps. It really does help. It also triggers a bunch of endorphins later. The dopamine kicks in and you get kind of the post-workout rush. I'm sure if you've been a runner before, you know that feeling. There's a post-run high that you can get. It happens with long hikes. Spending time in water helps a lot. Sometimes people will take a hot bath or a shower. That's when we get our most interesting ideas, right? Getting outside. Sunlight is a really good trigger. Getting sunlight can actually help you a lot. It can help you sleep better at night, but it also, that fresh air and sunshine clears your mind. So whatever it is you need to do, think about what recharges you. What are the healthy ways to recharge you? And use them as a vitamin, not just a painkiller. It definitely helps as a painkiller. Like you've had a negative thing happen. You're like, I'm going to go for a run. I need to forget about this for a bit. That helps. Or I had a really bad day yesterday. I'm going to go for a hike tomorrow. It helps. You can also use it as a vitamin. So just do it every day and it builds your foundation, of course. Notice very early when things are starting to drift off course, when you're feeling tense, your heart's beating a little bit faster and you've had a little too much stress. Go take your vitamin. Go for a walk. I used to go for a walk around the block at work, and that helped me a lot. So find what those things are for you and use them. Use them ahead of time. Returning to the routines that calm you. You know, you feel like after an emotional setback that your world has been shaken. And nothing feels solid anymore. So you get back to your routines, the things that help you feel better, feeling in control. Feeling in control helps a lot because a lot of setbacks are rooted in a loss of control. Something happened that you didn't expect, that you didn't want. And it could have been in your environment. It could be with another person. And you feel out of control and it's not a good feeling. So circle your wagons and get back to things that you do control. Your routines, like what you do when you wake up, what you do when you go to sleep. Have some tiny wins, a little bit of exercise, go for a walk, do something that really recenters you quickly and creates that stability, that emotional stability. Talking to someone else can help too. So if you have a friend or a loved one you really trust, you have a coach that you've hired, it helps to vent and let that out. It really does help to vocalize it and to have someone who will give you judgment-free attention. The last thing you need is to share this and they're like, well, that's not something you should be upset about, or it sounds like you did something wrong. You don't need that. And good friends know that. A coach knows that. You need someone who's going to listen to what's happening, what's bothering you, who's going to help you try to deconstruct it a bit so that the emotions and the facts aren't all mixed together. Try to find some structure instead of the chaos and have different ways of looking at it. Different ways of looking at it saying, maybe this could be a good thing, or maybe this person wasn't trying to be mean to you. It's just they were busy or distracted or whatever it might. Maybe they were having a bad day. So really trying to help you with some perspective and some coaching to think about how to recover from it and move forward. And then finally, really taking care of yourself, practicing a little bit of compassion for yourself and creating forward-looking goals that put you back in control. Because an emotional setback, like I said, makes you feel like you've lost control. It makes you feel like the foundation's shaky. So rebuild it. Get back on track with the things that make you feel healthy and good, that keep you centered. It could be that meditation, journaling, exercise, going for walks, having a person that really helps you recenter. Anything that will help you regain a sense of control and confidence. And accepting that it takes time. depending on what the setback is, it takes time. Don't beat yourself up and say, wow, I can't believe I didn't find a new job the day after I got laid off. And I have literally heard somebody say that. It's like, hey, I tell people after a layoff, just do nothing that first week. Just recover, let yourself process all the emotions, go see some friends, go do things you've been putting off for a long time because you have a job. Don't beat yourself up. Don't jump back into the job search. The worst thing to do is try to do an interview when you're feeling pretty burnt from what just happened. And I interviewed somebody like that. I've done that a few times, and they were bitter and angry, and it did not do well. They did not do well. It's the worst time to jump into a job interview is when you're just so angry and beat up. Take time, recover. Be kind to yourself. It takes time to recover from a breakup. It takes time to recover from a financial setback or a career setback, whatever. So recovering takes time, growth takes time. And just realize that this is a journey, right? This concept of emotional health and wellness and being good at this takes time. It's something that we work on for the rest of our lives, much like our physical health, right? This is not something you do once and, wow, I'm healthy and fit and I'm going to be this way for the rest of my life. No, it's a habit. So be good at establishing the habits that help you keep that foundation strong. Be good at identifying early warning signs when something's starting to drift off course. Immediately take action to make yourself course correct and feel better. Set good boundaries. There's things that you can do to say, I'm not going to let that happen to me again. And now you've learned, right? It's all skills. Practicing healthy emotional wellness is a skill. I think most of us are not born with it. It's something we learn. And some people don't ever seem to learn it, and they just are anxious and depressed and angry their entire lives. And the rest of us start to finally figure it out and say, okay, this is something I can get better at. And it's something I can monitor, and it's something I can focus on. So hopefully this is helpful for you. And if you ever want to talk, I'm always here. You go to newsletter.invinciblelife.me and check out any of the bio information that's in the footer of all the posts that I make, and it shows you ways you can schedule a free call with me. You can apply to join my free community, all that good stuff. And I hope you subscribe and stay in touch. Take care. Until next time, I wish you the best of luck with pursuing the life of your dreams so you can be happier, healthier, and more fulfilled.